I offer my heartfelt thanks to the founder, president, and trustees of Naadabrahmam Foundation for giving me this opportunity to come here and participate in this event where we are felicitating two of our heroes from our Indian Army. It's a matter of great pride and honor for me to be here to participate and felicitate them. As was spoken, Naadabrahmam Foundation has been in existence for over 37 years, and it has contributed to rediscovering our culture and rejuvenating it through music and art. And culture, I would say, is vital for any nation and any organization. We have heard of organizational culture and how it is very important in supporting the strategy of that organization. The same is true for the nation as well. Years of subjugation by the foreign powers have systematically demolished our age-old culture, traditions, folk art, and history. There is a Scottish writer called Andrew Fletcher Gross who said, and I quote him, he said, "Let me make the songs for the nation, and I care not who makes the laws," unquote. So what does it mean? It means that songs, music, they play a very important part in generating patriotism, in initiating movements, in generating the concept of community, and have led to the creation of revolutions, countries, and so on. So therefore, it is no wonder that we are repeatedly told by our national leadership, particularly Prime Minister Modi ji, has been talking of the Panch Pran, in which the third Pran is of Virasat Pe Garv. And that is what organizations like Naadabrahmam Foundation are pursuing. They, in their own way, through various events like the cultural programs, the music programs, the Sri Rama Sangeeta Sadas, and so on, which are repeated and conducted every year, are in a way acting towards rejuvenating our culture and bringing in this Virasat Pe Garv. So I was very interested to see the ideals that they have scripted to say music, charity, and peace, and music for peace. But however, I want to flag a point here that peace is not something that happens on its own. Okay? It is something that has to be worked for. It is something that it has to be fought for. And it is something that we have to guard very, very zealously. We cannot take it for granted. If you look at the last 3,500 years of history, recorded history, it is a fact that less than 300 years of peace have been there in this whole time. In some part or the other of the world, there has always been conflict during the entire period. So therefore, when we say that this is an era of peace and so on, we have to be very guarded. And we just have to look around today. There is war happening in Ukraine, in Russia, in Syria, in Iraq, in Lebanon, and a whole lot of other countries. So this is something we have to guard against. A war is not of any good to any nation. So we have to ensure that we are prepared for that. And more than 2,000 years back, Plato had said that only the dead have seen the end of war. Okay? So therefore, we have to be conscious of this fact that peace comes at a price. Peace comes at a price of the soldiers, of the or the sailors, the airmen, the people who are, guarding or taking part in the defense of a country. To talk of military life, I couldn't find a better definition than what was, written by Sir John Hackett, where he said, military life is about the ordered application of force under an unlimited liability. And it is this unlimited liability that sets the man who takes up this profession apart from all other jobs. Like Colonel Padmanabhan was talking that, there are people who can fall from, electric post and die, and so on. But when a soldier takes up his profession of arms, he is in a contract. There is a contract for an unlimited liability. This is not there in any profession. You must remember that. So therefore, he will always remain a citizen of the country, but he will never be a civilian so long as he is in service. And this is what sets him apart from any other profession in the world. Okay, this unlimited liability part of it. And the military service demands a lot of things from him. Whether it is curtailment of his personal freedoms, restriction of liberties, discipline, self-sacrifice, long separations, low compensation, very hard work, and so on. I want to tell you about what Rousseau had to say, the famous philosopher. And he said that as soon as public service ceases to be the main business of the citizens, and they prefer to serve with their pocketbooks, which means money, rather than with their bodies, then the state is close to ruin. This is something he talked of more than 200-300 years back, but this is a very profound statement. That means we as citizens must take ownership for the defense of the country. We must be able to contribute, through our persons, and rather than just, mouthing platitudes or contributing with money. And therefore, I would say that a military profession is a very demanding profession. It's a meritocratic profession. It doesn't care for your background, but it recognizes your abilities. It gives you great exposure, experience, and challenges. It transforms you into, a person of great confidence, of great abilities, and above all, it provides a very orderly, life which is quite distinct, and a life of much dignity and honor. And therefore, I urge, the younger, the children I see, the school children here, that, now there are opportunities in the armed forces. I see a lot of girls. The armed forces have now opened up both the ranks as well as for the officers, for women as well. It provides a great opportunity for you to serve. If you want to serve for shorter durations, that is possible, 4 years in the Agnipath scheme. If you want to serve for longer durations, it is possible as there is short service officers or long service or permanent commission officers and so on. So there is a lot of opportunities available for you to, to serve the nation as well as, seek private excellence, seek excellence for yourself. So I do hope that many of you may think of, taking up this profession. It's a profession which gives you much, but it takes much also from you. But anyone who's prepared to freely give more to the service, you will definitely get benefited. But I want to caution you that if you are looking for money, then it's the wrong place. But if you are looking for being a better person, if you're looking for contributing to society, then there can be no better profession than this. So we are all fortunate to be in Bharat at this point of time, where we are right now the 5th largest economy, and in about 20 years' time, we hope to be the 3rd or the 2nd largest economy in the world. And by 2047, our leadership thinks of, as the vision, that we will be a developed nation by 2047, 100 years of independence. So, as we move towards that, it is the younger people who are here who will be, taking up responsibilities and in positions where you will be required to take the nation forward. And therefore, it is very important that while we are an economically strong nation, we need to be a very strong nation militarily as well. And again, more than 2000 years back, Thucydides, a historian, has written, the strong do what they want and the weak suffer what they must. So if you are a weak nation, you will suffer, what the strong nations want you to. So, very clear example is evident today. We just have to look at, President Trump and, his declarations and so on. So the answer is to be militarily strong. And for that, we require contribution from society to willingly participate in the armed forces and give your time, energy, your service, and so on. It was repeatedly brought out as to how the armed forces personnel do not get their due. It's not something new. Okay, Rudyard Kipling had said in A Time for Prayer, and I quote him: "In times of war and not before, God and the soldier we alike adore. But in times of peace and all things righted, God is forgotten and the soldier slighted." This is what, Rudyard Kipling had to say many, many years back. And unfortunately, it's a truism, and it is relevant even today. But here today, I'm glad that an organization like this, Naadabrahmam Foundation, has been able to prove Rudyard Kipling wrong by, organizing an event like this and celebrating and felicitating our heroes, the unsung heroes of our armed forces, identifying them and recognizing them for their sacrifice, their contribution, and their service. So today we are recognizing the contribution of Brigadier N.A. Subramaniam ji and Havildar V.K. Inasuji posthumously. Brigadier Subramaniam ji is a native of Chavakad here. He joined the army in 1968 at the age of 16. He's put in more than 40 years of selfless service and retired in 2008. An artillery officer, his, I would say, most striking contribution, apart from, the entire service, has been in the Kargil war. And he was the first commanding officer of any regiment to be inducted there, of the artillery regiment to be inducted there. And he had a very key role to play in challenging the Pakistani intrusion. And he was actively involved in the planning, preparation, conduct, and progress of various operations, including the battles to capture Tololing and Tiger Hill. Now these battlefields are more than 15,000 feet high, and they're very cold, inhospitable, and there is very limited oxygen. So it's a very, very challenging environment, and where he had to perform. And for his contribution, he's been recognized with the Yuddha Seva Medal by the Honorable President. Later on, he was also involved in massive rescue and relief operations in 2008 in West Bengal. And having been, in various rescue operations, I know that it is not an easy thing. It requires a lot of courage, decisiveness, and organizational ability to participate and rescue, lakhs of hundreds and thousands of people who have, got stranded in in natural disasters. So, sir, we are very proud of all that you have done, and we take this opportunity to felicitate you and request you to accept our our appreciation for all that you have done on behalf of the citizens of Bharat. Coming to Havildar V.K. Inasuji, he's a native of Ayantol in Thrissur, born in 1961, and he was a keen sportsman, a footballer of excellence for the army as well. While he studied here in government school and joined the Indian Army, the Madras Regiment in 1982. Over the next 17 and a half years, he's had a very challenging tenure. He taken part in operations in Sri Lanka. He was there in the Kargil War, and he's been deployed in various challenging terrain. And it was during his deployment as part of the deployment in Jammu Kashmir Op Rakshak that during the cross-border, trans-border firing, he made the ultimate and supreme sacrifice in the rank of Havildar. And that was the time when he had been promoted to the rank of junior commissioned officer. Unfortunately, he could not take up the post. So our felicitations to his wife, Shiji, who's here, and his daughter, who's here as well, Shweta. His service stands as a typical shining example of courage, discipline, diligence, dedication, and selflessness. So what I told you earlier about armed forces being, the military life is all about an ordered application of force under an unlimited liability. This is a typical example of unlimited liability, and where he was engaged in, in performing his duty irrespective of the consequences. So this unlimited liability of supreme sacrifice for the larger cause of the nation, nation's defense and security, is what thus sets a soldier like Inasu apart from all other professions in the world. And in the military, we talk of Naam, Nishan, and Naam, Namak, and Nishan. That is honor, the salt you have, you take, you swear by it, and the flag for which you die. Sir Edward Himley, he visited, when he was visiting one of the units, he saw a flag folded and kept, and he was wondering as to why, people respect it so much and so on. So he wrote this about it: a moth-eaten rag on a worm-eaten pole, it does not look likely to stir a man's soul. But it's the deeds that were done under the moth-eaten flag, when the pole was a staff and the rag a flag. So people die for the flag. That is a type of emotion and, camaraderie and, team spirit that exists in the armed forces. And hundreds of such actions, like those which Havildar Inasu did, happen every day. It is service before self. But very few get recognized, either because many of them do not come back to tell their stories, or for various reasons we have very limited, gallantry awards being given and so on. But that does not diminish their service or their sacrifice, the magnitude of the sacrifice. So we as citizens need to acknowledge, reach out, and thank them and their families, and extend any support we can to help them in times of need. So I'll now, before I wind up, I want to take a few minutes to, having been the Navy Chief, it is improper if I don't talk about the Navy. The Navy is a service very few people know about, including many people who serve in the Navy. Why? Because, it's far away. We don't go out to sea. And I'm sure if I ask, except any naval veteran who's here, hardly anybody would have, spent 24 hours at sea on a ship or on a boat. But the sea holds so much importance for us. There is something called the 66, 70, 80, 90, 99% rule. What does it mean? 66% of our resources come from the sea or in and around the sea. 70% of the globe is water, ocean. Just as the human body, 70% of the human body is water. 80% of the people in the world, they live within about 200 miles of the coast. 90% of our trade, that is your petrol, goods that you buy, or everything comes through the sea. And 99% of your internet traffic, whenever you go on your mobile phone or on a computer and you go onto the internet, that goes through undersea cables. It doesn't go through the sky. Okay? So the importance of the sea is paramount. And we had a long seafaring tradition. Okay? The Indian Ocean, which surrounds us, was the first traveled ocean more than 5,000 years back. All the other oceans were traveled much, much later. Like Atlantic was traveled only about 1,000 years back. Pacific Ocean was traveled only about 2,000 years back. So we had a very vibrant maritime, ecosystem going in the Indian Ocean from Bharat. But over a period of time, we forgot about it. In fact, during the Chola period, we had reached the peak of maritime power. We had extended our reach to Southeast Asia. Our culture had spread there. And the sea has got, a few key attributes. Like, it is a place where you get a lot of resources, be it fish, oil, minerals, and so on. And secondly, it's a means of transportation. It is the cheapest and most efficient means of transportation. You can, for the same amount of energy, you can transport only 1 kg by road, 10 kgs through rail, and 100 kgs through water. So that is the sort of the economies of scale that you get when you use the sea. And then it is also, a means of communication, religions, ideas, they all spread through the sea in earlier days. And lastly, it is a means of dominion, of conquest. Bharat was conquered by the colonials through the sea. Nobody came from land to conquer us. And then we remained subjugated for more than 200 years. And they reduced us from 27% of the world's GDP to just 3% in a matter of 200 years when they left in 1947. So the sea is a very important part of us. And then as we look at becoming a developed nation and the second or the third largest economy by 2047, what does it mean? It means we will be buying more things, selling more things, importing more things, exporting more things, and using the sea for all that. You cannot transport all this over the land. So therefore, the importance of the ocean is only going to increase in the years ahead. And the Navy has got a very important role to play in protecting, in preserving, promoting, and pursuing our interests in the maritime domain. So this is just to give you a brief insight about the Navy, what it does. And I would like to, to conclude by once again highlighting and honoring the significant contribution of our two heroes, Brigadier N.A. Subramanian and Havildar V.K. Inashu. And also my felicitation to all those people who have worked behind the stage to make all this event work, and to the Naadabrahmam Foundation for organizing this memorable event, and as a gesture honoring all our armed forces personnel for their service. So thank you all for your time and for your patient hearing. Jai Bharat.